Dedication. King legacy. True story. Respect the elders.
I got the caregiver blues. Caregiver blues. I got the caregiver blues. Caregiver blues.
The main reason I'm still breathing and speaking to get even. My spirit ain't never leaving. Stand tall, 6'3", got serenity in the streets. Big love moving me 7 days a week. Caregivers giving to me good attention with good intentions. Keep my healthy heartbeat beating. My family royalty, yet they can't handle my needs. I've been praying for my harvest and been planting my seeds to grow marvelous. No longer stolen, the lost been found. Golden years keep flowing, the cost went down. I've been blessed with manifest long life right now. I wish the elders could see me now. New wheelchairs, good health care is really rare. Thankful for my blues, life ain't fair. My wife ain't here. I can't lose with the spirit of a winner. Some days still feel cold as winter.
I got the caregiver blues. Caregiver blues. I got the caregiver blues. Caregiver blues.
Yes, a new year, I'm still here. Living with AD, the soul survivor, the struggle, you see it in HD. Clear and present danger with them damn strangers. Mass abuse and causing me mad anger. But I see time, still I got a peace of mind. I'm 94 now, staring around, I'm on the grind. See more tears disappear over the years. I even lost kids.
I'm Lora King, and I am the author for the book Stolen, which is a daughter's chronology of Alzheimer's and the impact of in-home care. We're having this book launch for Stolen at the historical African American Firemen's Museum today, 5/19/2013. This is a place that my dad, when he became a fireman in the late 40s, around 1947, he did work at this particular station, and this was one of the stations that African American men were stationed at. In other words, they were segregated, and this is one of the stations that they were segregated at. So in 1950, they actually filed a suit, and the Los Angeles City Department had to, or they caved and granted integration. And from that point, the African American men were sent out throughout the city, one man at each station, in which they were severely discriminated against.
Now today is in honoring of your father today.
Well, today is a double celebration. One, it's for the book launch, as I mentioned earlier. Two, my father turned 94 yesterday, May 18th. And I know that a lot of people, when they write books about the disease, Alzheimer's, they write it after the person is deceased. And I thought, wow, my dad is still alive, I'm going to write about it now. Now, unfortunately, yesterday, and on his birthday, he'd have to be hospitalized, and he suffered, we think, a minor stroke. So he won't be here as anticipated, but he'll be here in spirit.
Indeed, indeed. So at the outcome of today, what would you like to be the message that's sent to those who come in to view Stolen?
Well, the main purpose, the reason that I decided not to do just a book signing, I wanted to do a book launch. And part of that distinction is to heighten awareness. So I am really interested in getting the word out about this disease. I think a lot of our people don't really realize the impact emotionally, psychologically, and especially financially. So my whole purpose today, mission today, is to do that, heighten awareness. Also, in my book, I offer some very good techniques, suggestions for managing the behaviors of AD patients. Because what's resulting is people don't know how to manage their behaviors, and they put them in convalescent homes and nursing homes prematurely. So if you can get an understanding of how to manage, I believe they can remain in their homes longer, which is an enhanced lifestyle.
I've noticed that the U.S. Against Alzheimer's, real briefly, that they've been launching a campaign to try to get more people to be part of the clinical trial to be able to early detect, because we are, the African American community is the largest population that's affected by Alzheimer's, as the statistics has been able to prove. What would you like to say to those people who need to be able to become part of participants?
Well, Alzheimer's, for one thing, it is what I call an equal opportunity disease. I mean, it affects all races, cultures, ethnicities, religion. So, but the irony is, certain minorities, it doesn't affect minorities the same way. And African Americans and Hispanic or Latinos, we have a higher risk for the disease.
Wow.
Because there's risk factors, which I talk about in Stolen. And some of the risk factors are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, even obesity. So I really want, African American people, since I take it personal, I am African American, my dad, of course, is African American, he has the disease. I'm considered to be at a higher risk because my dad has it. So just letting people know that.
We're here now, down to LA, no fear. I'm in my mind's eye, see smoke signals and signs. Living with dementia, but I never lost my mind. The OG inventor, fighting fires on the front lines. Still remember dodging politics and punchlines. Building a big business, making money for my fam. Spending and I lend it. The old man anthem of the new world order. Got love for my daughter, I really miss her mother. Teach the children values of life, to love each other. The mind tricks the body, body tricks the mind crazy. Feeling like a new man lately. Everything's great. Yeah, as I focus on the future, it's the life I live now. Living in LA, Sin City, seen all around. For the legacy of the King family, my son Greg follow my steps, so everything else is next. The easy thing to forget is how baby boomers connect. Perfection is a magnet, dollar signs are fast tense. Strive to survive, get good with investment. Work hard, showing proof the best is all I see. I get it, I got it, overdrive, committed, I advocate, I survive. Every single day I thank God for life. Spit your elders worldwide.
A daughter love for her father, that she trailed him for 3 years and wrote this book. Now I know all her friends know about this, but that is not the point right now. I'm going to introduce her brother, which is Greg King. He's going to come up and give you some information about this historical African Museum firefighting area, and then after that we'll hear from Lora, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the book. She's going to tell you a little bit about the introduce before that, all the vendors in the house and other people. I'd like to introduce you. Visiting angels in the back. That's a home health care center. She is with UWM, which is Urban Wealth Management. That is also something that we all need after we reach a certain age. We need to start investing in our future, investing in funding and all of that. We have a UNC Davis School of Genealogy. Her name is Donna Benton, PhD. She's in the back right there. She tells you family and caregivers. So we have Brian Gaines, MSW, Alzheimer's Association. He's in the back. Raise your hand. We have Joshua Grills. He's from Mary S. Easton Center and Alzheimer's Disease Research at UCLA. He may be speaking later on to give you a clap yourself, please. Thank you for being so supportive of Lora. She is a superwoman. And right now, with no further ado, we have Mr. Greg Key. Come up, Greg.
Good afternoon, everybody. Number one, I am not a public speaker at all. But I do want to let you all know that this is a happened here, there were only 2 black fire stations. At the time, there were only 2 black fire stations. There were 30s and 14s. My dad worked here, fire station 30. This was around 1947. He went to the training tower. There you go. He went to the training tower, and he came here, and he spent about 10 years, and they did an excellent job. There was a lot of camaraderie here. In around 19. Hold on. Check my notes. This facility right here opened up in 1913. 1913, and it's in its original condition, the same right now. Poles are just as they were. It was remodeled. In 1985, it was designated as a Los Angeles Historical Cultural Monument. And 1997, it opened up as the museum. But like I remember my dad, when he worked here as a youth, he brought my sister and I down here. I remember the Coca-Cola, big Coca-Cola place over there. And I do remember that. That really stuck in my mind. Years after that, my dad, when he and the group of guys that he worked with, they really were a very cohesive group. They had a lot of fun. They were excellent firefighters, but they thought outside the box. They knew that they were all pigeonholed by the means, thinking that like, if we all stay here, we can't go anywhere, and there would not be a chance for others to come on the job and follow. So as around, I believe, 1957, that they decided to integrate the fire department, and they moved on. They moved out of this station, and they went on to other stations outside of this one. And that's when they integrated. A lot of them were subjected to a lot of things that I know we wouldn't be able to have tolerated. My dad retired in 1972, and I came on, and I came through the same house, and I was able to get his badge and also his locker. And that was in 1974, so that was really an honor. And as you walk around and you look on the walls, all the pictures, you'll see that blacks have really they've done a lot on the fire department. For 100 years, they've been there, done a lot, and we're still doing a lot. For the last, I know most of you know, the last 3 chiefs have been black in the Los Angeles City Fire Department. Currently, right now, Brian Cummings is our fire chief, and the county also has a black fire chief. So we're making strides, and the key that we all strive to do is not to forget what these pioneers, soldiers, did for us. Never forget to look back and bring those who are behind you. That's very important. Thank you very much.
My life, my life, my life, my life. My life, my life, my life, my life.
Ask you to indulge me. One, in the acknowledgments. I really want to say that
this is really a wonderful day, and I really give the glory to God. I really do. And having said that, I just really feel moved with reading chapter 3 in Proverbs, which I did write. I did write it in the book because I really, really believe it as well. But the fact that this book was written, my father inspired this book, and just everything just kind of evolved. So what also evolved was that a lot of people, when they write books such as this, they write it after the person has made their transition. So then I got very excited that, you know, my father is still alive and doing very well. So I started writing the book while he was alive. And I told my dad, I said, you know, I'm writing a book about you. And he said, you better hurry up. So I really want to read this, because this really reminds me of my father at this particular time, trusting in the Lord. My child, never forget the things I have taught you. Store my commands in your heart. If you do this, you will live many years and your life will be satisfied. Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people. Good reputation. Now this reminded me of my father so much because Friday, my father was taken to the hospital, you know, so I was like, God, you know, for 10 years, you know, we've been working with him, and for 10 years, he's really done pretty well. And I was like, why? You know, why the day before his birthday was May 18th, you know, and why were we singing happy birthday to him in the hospital on that particular day? And then I read what I always read for myself. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding, because I wasn't getting it. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. So that's why I can be here today talking about this book, Stolen, knowing that my dad is, you know, going through the challenges that he's going through now. But then the conduit to that is that this disease, AD, I call it AD, Alzheimer's disease, for short. This disease is so insidious, very, very insidious, and it's unrelenting. There's no cure, there's no prevention, and there's no treatment at this particular time. And so by reading and researching for the book, I mean, I'm very aware of the symptoms and the progression of the disease, but nevertheless, when you're faced with it, you're still kind of thrown off, you know? So my dad, you know, he had a small stroke, and that is common for elders. He's 94, and it's very, very common, you know, with this particular disease as well. So I know people are wondering, what is this disease all about? I mean, for myself, I never even really heard about it, really, until my father was afflicted with it. And that was in 2004. So there are, and we were unaware of what the Alzheimer's Association talks about in terms of the warning signs. And it was like, what warning signs? So I do want you to be aware of these kinds of facts. In fact, this is why I decided to have a book launch instead of just a book signing, because I really want to emphasize the awareness of this disease. I really want people to get what we didn't get, to help you not be unsuspecting suspects. That's really what I call it. So I did want to review with you the 10 warning signs that the Alzheimer's Association talks about and is well respected in the communities. One is loss of memory. Now that's the hallmark of this disease, is loss of memory. Actually, to be more specific, the hallmark initially is loss of short-term memory, and then your long-term memory is affected. 2, difficulty performing familiar tasks. 3,
3, problems with language. Disorientation to time and place. 5, poor or declining judgment. Problems with abstract thinking. Misplacing things. Changes in mood and behavior. Changes in personality. Loss of initiative. So when I read these 10 warning signs after the fact, of course, I thought, how did we miss it? You know, how come we didn't see this in our father? We're not looking for it. You know, meaning that at the time my dad was, you know, how come we didn't see this in our father? And what I figured out is we're not looking for it. You know, meaning that at the time my dad was, actually my mom had passed, and we just really thought that it was grief. You know, in other words, some of these things that you see, difficulty with familiar tasks, disorientation, tired, lethargic, we really said, oh, well, Dad is just, you know, a little, you know, down because of Mom. But clearly, things like disorientation to time and place. I don't know whether you guys have gotten to go outside and look at some of the banners that I made up. One of them, in fact, in the preface of the book, is the man in the mirror.
My life, my life, my life, my life.
And my dad looks at himself in the mirror and said, who is that? And that just was so shocking to me. But, you know, from my readings, it's like you don't want to show, you don't want to shame, you know, you don't want to make them feel bad. So I just said, oh, Dad, that's you. You probably just, you know, you probably don't recognize yourself because of whatever. I just made up some stuff. But I was really thinking, oh my God, he doesn't know himself. Well, see, that's part of what we're talking about here in these 10 warning signs. That's disorientation. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you are. Dad is, at this point, he's not aware of his home that he loves, but there's a comfort in the home, but he doesn't recognize his home. That's disorientation. So what I want to help you guys realize is that when your loved one, whether it's, I don't know, I'm really beginning to realize that although AD is a disease of the aging, the older you get, the more that you're at risk for getting this disease. I still think that baby boomers, we need to be very, very careful. You know how we kid around talking about brain freezes and things of that nature? We need to take a look at that. We really, really do. And I think if you look at some of these things that they're talking about, you may be able to address the fact that, oh, hey now, I walked in this room 3 or 4 times and couldn't remember what I came in this room to get. Now, I'm kind of going to take a closer look at that. So, you know, you need to talk to your doctors. And I'm not a doctor. There's a big old disclaimer in here. But I do think that with a little, if we get out of that sense of denial, that we can kind of figure out some of these things too. Now, I pulled my dad's records too from his HMO. And when you are assessed for the disease, you're given what they call the MMSE, was the mini mental status exam. And I sat in that exam with my father and just pretended like I was reading a magazine or whatever. They allowed me to be in it. And I could not believe some of the questions that they asked him that he didn't know. Like, who's the president? You know, and he didn't know. So I kept thinking, how did they get past me? We would look at the news together, you know, I would talk to them about it, but they're very cunning too. They can kind of play things off. Now, come to find out what happens also in terms of the orientation, in terms of language. Language also means the ability to read and write. So my dad would sit up there with the paper, but he had lost the ability to read, and we didn't know. We hadn't figured it out. He would hold it, he would look like he was reading, but he really wasn't. So this disease also robs you of cognitive abilities. Well, let me back up a little bit, because a lot of people now are using the term dementia and Alzheimer's disease interchangeably. And that, I think that's kind of acceptable, right, Joshua? However,
bring to you the point that dementia is not a diagnosis. Dementia is a syndrome, a clinical syndrome. And what that means is that when there are symptoms, similar symptoms that occur in a specific disease or illness, they call that a clinical syndrome. So the clinical syndrome for AD, Alzheimer's disease, is 1, loss of memory. And as a result of a loss of memory, you lose your ability to function properly in your home, which means you need help, you need assistance with taking care of yourself. You can no longer take care of yourself by yourself. And it starts on a very low grade. You know, you may need someone to help do a little cooking. You may need a little bit of transportation. And that's how it starts. And then that's why we kind of miss it, because it's such a low grade type of thing for a lot of people. I really feel as though the hallmark is memory loss, and as I mentioned, it's short-term, functional. The next category that is very important in terms of the diagnosis of AD is cognitive, the loss of cognitive abilities. Now, cognitive means how you think. But what that includes, that also includes language, as I just mentioned, the loss of the ability to speak, the loss of the ability to write. Language also includes the loss of ability to just remember words. Like, for example, my dad. If I walk in and say, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" The word dad doesn't mean anything to him. That's a word that he's lost that memory of. So the way my dad did it, which kind of fooled us, he would say, "Hey, sweetheart," and I was like, "Okay, that's cool," you know, or "Hi, dear," you know. But he didn't remember my name. He didn't remember our names. So these are little slick ways that it kind of evades us. So in terms of awareness, we need to start being a little more specific, like, "Okay, Dad, what's my name?" You know, just little cute ways. You don't want to shame them. You don't want to make them feel bad, because oftentimes they know something's a little off. You know, and as it progresses, you know, my father started talking about feeling lost, you know, feeling confused. So they know. They definitely know. So when you have loss of short-term memory, which affects your ability to function, affects your daily living activities, and when you have that in conjunction with the loss of disorientation, language, then it is said that you have Alzheimer's type, which is a dementia. You have an Alzheimer's type of dementia. So my emphasis here is there's many types of dementia. There's a lot of dementias, and I list some of the dementias that have symptoms that are similar to Alzheimer's but a little different. So I list them in my appendix, and I have a very, very large appendix for you. What I want to say also is that this disease, while the statistics are grim, I don't want to say facts, I want to say statistics, because I feel like with research, with participation by individuals, I stole your eights. You know, you remember you used to say the eights? Joshua Grill from research, he was talking about the eights, the ATES, as it relates to this disease. I used it and stole it in the Obama administration, talking about, 1, we need to participate, we need to advocate, and we also need to donate. Now, we may not have money, but you know what? You can donate your mind. And what I mean by that is the only way that they will know, that you will know that you have this disease, Alzheimer's disease, is when they do an autopsy. Now, let me explain why. Because as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of other different types of dementia. And we go specifically into the types of dementias and what happens in the brain, but we really don't know everything. We just know that some of the hallmarks of what happens in the brain is that plaques and tangles kind of build up on the brain. And those are neurofibrillary things, and they have protein in them. They have an APE4. And all these really, really detailed, difficult information. It's a very, very complex disease, and that is explained in the book. Because in the book, what I do have is what I call conversations with the experts. The book is written from my perspective, in which I have been very, very candid about the lack of services, and therefore when I was out there trying to find services, that's why I have these information tables around here. The Alzheimer's Association, that's free services. Free services, and we need to take advantage of these free services that are available in our communities. We have Dr. Benton here with the caregiver, the family, you guys changed your name. What is it?
Caregiver Support Program.
Family Caregiver Support Program. That was an excellent program. They call you, they have those kind of webinars where they'll call and they'll tell you what subject that they're talking about, and please call in at a certain time. So there are a lot of services that are available. Also, in terms of research, I'm a big advocate for research. Because every medication that you take, from aspirin to whatever, it has gone through a research process, it has gone through clinical trials, and that's the way this disease is going to be. We're going to find a cure for that, is through clinical trials, through participation, and we need to start participating. African Americans and Hispanic, unfortunately, we have a higher risk for getting this disease because of our lifestyle. And what's that? They find that there's links to high blood pressure, links to high cholesterol, links to diabetes, links to obesity. So, we need to be aware of what some of these high-risk elements are. And in my book, I talk about some of the other high risks. For example, guess what? Women get the disease more than men. Anybody want to guess why? That's it. Who said that? I hope it was a woman. Good. Yeah. Oh, woman. Yeah, because we live longer. And as I mentioned, age, getting older is one of the largest risks. So another thing that became very evident to me in this journey that my brother and I was on was the financial impact of this disease. And I don't think people are aware of the fact that Medicare does not pay for in-home care. So when you get this disease, which is unrelenting means once it starts, they really can't stop it at this particular time. Now research, they're working feverishly to try to find cures and prevention, but at this point, it's just unrelenting. It's called the long goodbye, because for some people, it goes slow, some people it goes fast. I have a very good girlfriend who, her mother, in fact, the picture out there, the banner that I have out there of the 102-year-old AD patient. My girlfriend has been taking care of her mother for 20 years. That's a long time. So what I'm saying is we need to start talking about this. We need to start planning. We need to start saying, how do you want to be cared for if, or what type of care would you like? Would you like to stay in your home if? Just these kind of conversations. Because when you're just in denial about it and now I'm a praying person too, but you also have to be proactive. You've got to be proactive. So I want you to also look at some of those banners that I have out there, because they all have a meaning. They all have a meaning. And like oh Lord, in terms of taking care of my dad, I also wrote a little song called The Caregiver Blues. Okay, he's gonna sing it. I really want you to hear it. Hear the lyrics, because I wrote lyrics, and I guess my lyrics were, they were very interesting. And they flipped my lyrics. They flipped it. And I was writing from the perspective of an adult child trying to find good quality care for my dad, and what I was running into in terms of finding, really compassionate caregivers. And they flipped it from the perspective that my dad probably has a caregiver blues too, as a result of some of these caregivers we hired. And it was like, you can relate, huh? So it was like, right on. So a rap, hip-hop, jazz, that I think is just the bomb. I really, 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 really do like it. But in regards to the caregiver blues, just think about this, and I know Because, you know, I'm a little more out there than Greg, a little more verbal. I literally say how much money, how much net income my dad has, just to prove to people that the care, what it takes to care for a person. And I just want to work with someone.
$10 an hour. Now that's fair. That's
A person needs 24-hour care, like my dad needs and some other people, their parents need. That's $240 a day. That's $7,000 a month. The average, a lot of us don't have that kind of money. So, you know, so in the book, I've come up with this little concept called creative negotiating. Where, you know, I feel like in this kind of economy, you know, perhaps if you own an apartment complex,
vacancy in there. If you can offer a caregiver the equivalent as part of their income, free rent, you know, that'll help offset your pocket, your out pocket. So just different ways of trying to work this out. Now we have Visiting Angels over there in the corner, which is an agency, an in-home care agency, and one of the main reasons that they're here, because like I told Yvette, you know, I want you to know I'm kind of hard on agencies because they charge so much. They're talking about $23, $24, $25 an hour. So Visiting Angels says that they're a franchisee and they try to work with you. So I am looking forward to working with them and trying to work out some things for people in the community to be able to afford, you know, registries, in-home care registries. Otherwise, you're out there like my brother and I, pounding, you know, asking for referrals. But you know what? I'm going to share this, and it's in the book. Everything I'm saying now is in the book. I think it's so wonderful to live in a country where you can express yourself and ideas. I definitely did. So what I want to say is we found a wonderful caregiver right over there. Her name is Senate. Senate, raise your hand. And the quality of my dad's life changed as a result of Senate's involvement with my dad. Now we found Senate at a repast. So I think when you guys go to funerals, I think when you're reading the program and when you hear the family members, you know, talk about what a good caregiver they have and how well they help their parent or their whatever, I think you need to run up there, but you need to be discreet. You need to be discreet because it's not the time. Okay, and another thing that I mentioned already about the financial impact of this disease, if you are able, if you can afford it, look at long-term care, please, because that offsets that cost that I was talking about. And we do have Renee Norris. She's in the house. She's back there in the house there with her company. So please talk to her about long-term care. That's really something that I really wish I would also take advantage of an advocate about research. Please talk to UCLA over here. You can just give them their name and they will call you when different studies come up that maybe you can participate in, because they definitely need your information. Or when they do find a cure, when they do find a medication or whatever, we're going to be left out of it. Because the medications that they have right now are called symptomatic. And what that means is it treats the symptoms of the disease. At this point, they really don't know what the etiology or the root cause of the disease is. So those symptoms, as I was saying, they kind of level out. You take them for a while, and they kept that going for about 6, 7, maybe 8 years. And then all of a sudden, you know, I noticed, I talked to the doctors about it. They said that, well, you might as well keep him on it, because if you withdraw it, maybe it'll change. Maybe things will get worse. So that's another thing. You're out there on your own, you guys. I mean, meaning that you have to prepare yourself, educate yourself, so when these symptoms come, you need to say, oh my goodness, I think so-and-so may be going on. Let me take my dad, let me take my mother to the doctor to be evaluated. And then when you take them, you may have to negotiate with the doctor. The doctor may say, oh, it's age-related. A lot of times they will say age-related. But if they are doing these things that I'm talking about, they're disorientated, there's problem with language, that's more than age-related. And you're going to have to be able to say, no,
serious than that. And if they don't make a referral, go to UCLA. You guys will probably evaluate, right? Is it free? Uh-oh. It can be? Well, we'll figure out. We'll figure out how to get it to be. Elzevir. There would be no book if I hadn't ran into this lady called Kai Elzevir, who is a creative editor. And, you know, I kind of was aware of some of her clients that she worked with, and I watched them. And I thought, well, maybe I can write a book, because I'm getting real upset about this, you know. So I did give her, I asked her, you know, can you help me? Do you think I can write a book? So she said, well, you know what? Give me a chapter. And I said, chapter? Okay, because I just had some little scribble stuff, you know, that I had written down. So I went away and pulled me together a chapter. She looked at my material. She gave me an assessment, pros and cons. However, one of the main things that she said that really stayed with me in my mind, and what I think gives the book Stolen a lot of flavor, and she said, Lora, stop writing clinically, you know, since I have a social worker background. She said, just write your book like you're talking to your friends. Just write like it's a conversation. And I did. I wrote just like I'm talking to you, and if something upset me about a doctor or whatever, or something upset me, I would say, you know, well, what the heck is going on? I mean, you know, I just because all these things are going on in your mind when you really wish I would have taken advantage of. And you know what we do? We say, well, I'm healthy. I feel fine right now. Well, you don't know how you're going to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now. So please take advantage of that. Keep an eye. This is for baby boomers. It's for the next generation. You need to be looking at your baby boomer parents. The baby boomers need to be looking at their geriatric parents. We really need to have awareness about this disease. Enjoy. Peace out. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
These 10 signs show I've been afflicted with a sickness. I used to be long-winded, now I'm barely speaking. This is a long goodbye, like Ronald Reagan leaving. I got some strong bones and lungs, so I'm still breathing. But I can't feel my face, can't remember the state where I'm from. Now who's gonna come? New blues for my daughter and son. Can't remember everything, but I feel like a king, I'm not done. I can't be left alone too long. This pressure's getting too strong. Problems with my language at home. My judgments have changed. My closest relatives look strange. Forgot the place where I came, but I know my name. I'm misplacing things, but I didn't misplace my dreams. Lost my memory, but history remembers me. Stolen from the body, because I'm God's property. Obviously, I got depression, revisited by my adolescence. My mind betrayed me. I guess I'm being tested. It's just another lesson. Ignorance is not bliss. I'm being tested. I'm very observant, still intelligent. Feel like I'm stolen from the family. Holding on to sanity. Talking to my unit, but no one is understanding me. Firefighting chief captain. God got a plan for me. I can't resist. I admit, never thought I'd be at risk like this. I might slip again and forget I've been stolen. I've been stolen. I've been stolen. Saga begins, bewilderment, scenes, pride in my eyes. My 6'2" frame bent over, leaning to the side. I'm unshaved and I'm shabbily dressed most of the time. I catch a vision of the image choking when I rhyme. No more pity. These words convey the terror that grips me. When looking in the mirror, my reflection misses me. Diagnosed with AD, maybe it can be reversed. Return to the years before disease hurt. Can put on my shoes or put on my own shirt. Day to day I get more carried away. This is work. This life gets stolen. I feel cursed. I'm looking around for the homies. I felt the spirit touch me. I heard all the angels discuss me. A cure for Mr. King to show the world who loves me. Stolen from the land, shipped off to stolen land. Struggle to live well, then end up stolen again. My daughter's still holding my hand. I remember holding money in my hand, counting grands I would spend and expand. I lost some personal possessions. To be alive is a blessing. Return to the baseline. Take time with stepping. For the joy and pain, sunshine and the rain. Discover the road to recovery. That's my aim. Just a long way to go. I hope this flow can explain. I've been stolen. Got a long way to go, I hope this flow can explain. I've been stolen.
Good afternoon. Why don't you introduce yourself to us and let us know about this day?
Hi, I'm Lora, and I came for this delicious book that I can't wait to read.
Wow.
Stolen
Stolen.
by Lora King, and she is such a brilliant public speaker. I just really enjoyed her speech all about her father that she helped for over 10 years with Alzheimer's, and I loved it. And even her brother got up who helped her, and I loved the bag she made. Father on the bag, and it says her website in front of her, and the cover of the book on the bag too. And she even has these little bookmarks.
So she made a good appearance today.
Wonderful, and she had it at the African American Firemen's Museum where her dad used to work. And who would think that? You know, her dad used to work here, and we learned a little bit of the history of the museum. That I could come back and take a tour here. One thing I wanted to say, there was so much positive, uplifting energy here today. I loved hearing about her story, and her dad and her friends are so kind, good-hearted, and uplifting just like her. I couldn't believe it.
What message will you take away from today and this experience here at the African American Firefighters Museum in honor of her dad and his plight right now with Alzheimer's?
Well, I'm so sad about the prejudice, the history of this museum with all those people, the people that saved our lives. People are still prejudiced about the glorious firemen that helped us and saved our lives. It's horrible. Our dad was one, and now he has Alzheimer's. I can relate. I have a brain disorder. And I'm on disability. I can relate to a lot of the symptoms of Alzheimer's. And it does steal your life away from you. But still, with all the pain I've caused my family, and there was still so much hope and uplifting energy and so much love in the room that Lora generates so much love and healing power, and she's such a scholar and good writer. I know this book is going to be a bestseller.
There's a lot of realism in her conversation in regards to Stolen and the plight and the type of the road that she was taking, and you know, it only mirrors that we need to take a little bit more time to find out about our loved ones and how to properly care for them doing these normal things that normally occur. You know, it's very important these days, you know, yourself included, as you just revealed to us that you are also conscious about memory loss and those things that you have to be mindful of nowadays. You know, you never know.
Even though, let's say you're older parent, my mom's going to be 80 in July. She went on a hill for something with her heart. It makes you a little dizzy, and then you might fall down and break a leg. Still, okay, it's not Alzheimer's, but still you could bust your hip or break a leg, get a little dizzy, and fall down at that age. There's a lot of things that can happen at older ages, and a lot of anxiety and depression comes with older age too. Even without Alzheimer's, we gotta look out for our older
Aging issues, system cycles, things of that nature that kind of we have to be mindful of in a way of preparing for the elderly, because again, they're old, they move a little slower, they're a little bit more cautious, their bones are a little more fragile, and you know, the smallest little injury that a 10-year-old child can go through and survive might be a very harmful fall for an elderly person who may not be able to stop their fall. You know, it's something to really think about how we care for our loved ones, of course.
Yes, and there's such a high percentage. I mean, it's like 60% of older adults are depressed and full of anxiety. I don't know the exact, but it's a very, very high percentage. So,
For those caregivers out there and those Alzheimer's support team out there, what message of support and advice would you give to motivate that? What one word, and what would you like to say to them for all their hard work?
thank you. Thank you for studying people like myself and the older generation. Thank you for your hard working and your frustration. And I know no one can pay for the fact that you care. No one can pay for that. Whatever it is, $20 an hour, $10 an hour, $50 an hour, no one can pay for your physical action and your emotional actions of caring, or else you wouldn't be able to keep the job. You'd be gone soon.
On that note, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.